Hi, my name is Rob Habrake and I'm going to give you a quick overview of my new Sitecore module Shrink. Let's log into the Sitecore client, and after installing my module via the installation wizard, you will find a new icon on your launchpad that's called Sitecore Shrink. When you open this Speak application for the first time, it will automatically start scanning your media library to collect the data of the reports it's going to present. Mind that this really depends on the size of your media library on how long it takes. If you have a small database with only a few items, it may take less than a minute, and if you have a really large database with tens of gigabytes of data, it may take up to several hours. But since it is executed as a Sitecore job, you can just close your browser and it will continue generating the report, and you can come back later to see the results. If it's ready, it will show you the dashboard you see over here. Of course, this is on an empty Sitecore installation, so there's not a lot of files in it, but it's good enough to demo the module on itself. The module consists of several views. The first one is a large sunburst chart. And the sunburst chart gives you an insight of how big media items and folders are in your database. So I can see that a lot of my size is taken up by two folders. That's files and system. And of course over here it's really small, but it shows the relative sizes of the folders to each other. And you can also zoom into the different folders and see that the tree view is updating itself to correspond to the sunburst chart, and it shows you again how big the files are that are in your repository. And you can zoom in until you are at a certain item. You can see it over here, and you can navigate back to the tree and go to other items as well. Okay, let's go back to the root and scroll down. Here you are presented three different donut charts, and the donut charts give you an overview of the relative sizes of the referenced item, the published items, and the items with an old version. The reference items has 2 or maybe 3 slices. The first one is the items that are in use, that are items that are actually referenced by other items in your Sitecore database. So if you are using media items, you will see them in use over here. If you have items in your media library that are not referenced by any other Sitecore item, they are categorized as items that are not referenced. And this module shows you the size of the referenced items altogether. You have the published items, and you see that my whole database is published, so only a very small part is not published. And you can see how many items that have old versions. Because this is a clean database, all the figures are very good. In the centers of the donut charts, you see how many items are not used, not published, or have old versions, and that's your potential cleanup size. There may be a third part in the charts. If items cannot be determined on if they are referenced or published, they will be shown as unknown. Okay, so over here you have the tree view, and the tree view is just a view of all the items in your database, and you can click through it and it just shows you the whole media library. As I showed you before, you can also navigate through the items by the file size in the sunburst chart and to go to the largest file. And as you can see, okay, this is a small database, but of all data files or all media item files in here, I can see that this one is pretty large, so I can go to that one. What I can do next is I can select items. I can either select the whole tree or only select parts of it, like this. And I can choose to archive the items, which moves them to the archive and speeds up your indexing. You can move them to the recycle bin, so you can restore them later on. This doesn't, both those options do not influence the whole size of your database, but it speeds up, it potentially speeds up the time that your pages load, because there are less items to index if you clean up a lot with these two options. The delete option lets you delete all the items that you have selected. That's the obvious one, and this really cleans out the blobs within your media item library. Then you have an option download, and this is, I think this is the most interesting option of the module, because what you can do here is you can download the selected items and decide if you want to delete them afterwards. So what you can do is, if you have a lot of data that is not being referenced or published and you want to remove it from your repository, via this feature you can extract them from your database. You can download them. They will be downloaded to the content management server and the files will be deleted afterwards. So you have a local copy. You do not lose any data. It's all in a backup, and your media library will shrink in size, and that's the idea of this module. You can also delete old versions, and then there's a feature that expands the tree, and it's just an option that that helps you expanding the tree. If you have a lot of items, you don't have to click all the separate folders. I should mention one thing, and that's a feature of the standard speak component item tree view that Sitecore uses and that I have extended for this module. If you select items like this, what I did here, if you select items that are folded, you won't select items underneath it. It seems that it does that, but it won't, and that's something I'm figuring out. So the best thing you can do is you can either expand your whole tree and just click the root item to select all, or if you want to only download this section, you can do it like this, or you can navigate to the right folder via the sunburst chart and select it over here, and then you can do it like this. If you delete items via any of these options, the graphs will be updated, the charts will be updated. If you decide to delete items via the Sitecore client and not via the module, once in a while you need to rescan the media library over here, because the report will get outdated. And then there's another feature, which is one of the cool features, and that's all this module is about. Let's navigate back to the media library root over here. Okay, so you see that on the default website there are two items, cover and SC logo. What I can do is I can go to the donut chart and copy referenced items, and I can decide to click items that are not referenced. And if I do so, the module will say you are now viewing all items that are not referenced, and it will actually filter the tree view over here and show you all the items that are not referenced. And you can see that cover and SC logo are not referenced. And if I then click items that are in use, you can see right now, then you see that the items won't appear under this default website folder. So this means that these files are not actually being used. And if you know Sitecore a bit, you know that the default installation does use these media items, but it does via directly showing them in a view that's not built up as it should. So they appear to not being used, but they are. I want to show you another feature, and let's start up Visual Studio for that. And in the meantime, I can show you that if you want to hop out of the view of all items in use or items being referenced, you can decide to click refresh, and it refreshes your tree and undoes all the selections that you've made. So you start at the beginning of this of the tree again. And in the end, it boils down to you can use this module to go in your media library, scan it, click items that are not referenced, expand the tree, and it will give you a very clear overview of all items that are not currently in use. And that's what this module is all about. You click the root, and you click download, and you click delete items afterwards. I'm not going to do it for the demo right now, but because it breaks my database for the demo. But I click download media, and what happens now is that it's starting to download the media. Because it knows how many items there are, it's going to show you a status bar, a progress bar. If you scan the media library, it doesn't know yet how many items it will have to scan. So the scanning feature doesn't show you a progress bar. So I mentioned earlier on that there could be items that are not used within Sitecore itself, within the link database, but they could be used from code. If you reference an item from code, it won't show up in your link database, and Sitecore won't recognize it as being used. So this module has a feature for that. And we go to the shrink.config, which is in your include folder, and it contains a setting which is called code referenced items, and you can just put in a pipe separated list of Sitecore IDs, and you can drop in all the items that you use from code. You have to generate the list yourself in this version, but you can drop them in here, and Shrink will handle these items as being referenced at any given time, so they will never be deleted accidentally. Okay, so I just downloaded the items. Let's go to the folder of Sitecore Shrink, which is in shell client your apps. And it contains a data storage, and the data storage by default only contains a readme item saying here is the folder where the data is going. And after the first generation, you see JSON files appearing in here, and these JSON files can contain your reports. But because I also downloaded a certain amount of items from my database, I also see a downloads folder here. And if I go in there, I see the files that I selected. And this is a copy of all the files that are not referenced within the link database of Sitecore. So if I go back to my module, you see that it's very useful to spot the large items in your database and to make a cross selections of all referenced or unreferenced items. And with a single click, you can just extract them from your database and clean up your media library and keep it up to date with the items that are used at the moment. Please bear in mind that everything you do only concerns the master database. So if you cleaned up your master database, you might need to publish your items or your whole media library to the web database or any other publishing target you are using at the moment to also clean up that database. And that's it. If you have any feedback on this module, please let me know. I'm happy to help you out. Bye bye.